French onion soup. Wine-rich broth, caramelized onions, melted cheese, and bread.
Vietnamese Pho, savory broth, noodles, beef, and dried herbs.
The French left a heavy stamp on Vietnamese food when they colonized Indochina in the late 19th century. But what if Vietnam had been the colonizer of France?
Imagine the classic, like French onion soup, getting the pho treatment.
Spin that Mixplate.
2 existing dishes from around the world, 1 new Mixplate.
Food doesn't evolve in a vacuum, because of course that would be gross. Just consider the humble but flavor-packed Vietnamese pho. The soup has changed and endured since it came on the street food scene in the 1880s, but at its core, it has remained a dish of rice noodles in a salty, satisfying broth. But the French, who occupied Indochina for 70+ years, brought their preference for beef. Later, when Vietnam split into North and South in the 1950s, pho developed separate styles too, sweeter in the South and saltier in the North. Southern Vietnamese chef Hang Trong mixes both styles in her restaurant's pho, but pho itself is a blend of influences from other cuisines.
The culture of the pho was born between Chinese and French cuisine. The noodles come from China. For the spice, we used so many different varieties in Vietnam. But then Vietnam at that time, I don't think people would eat a lot of meat. The French is like using the red meat for the cooking. Nowadays, you need to have beef bone. You can add a little bit pork bone inside to create more flavor. We twist that soup and together with the noodle from China to become pho. Without French people, we have different kind of soup.
French onion soup, like pho, also has a humble backstory. The now iconic version, with its toasted bread bobbing in onion broth under a halo of molten Gruyere cheese, can be traced to Les Halles, Paris's famed food market. Restaurateurs there offered the hearty soup as breakfast for laborers who had worked through the night. For Chef Chantal Doinel, the hearty flavors of French onion soup take her back to memories of France.
The French onion soup brings me back to my home, my roots. My mother used to make it probably 3-4 times a month. It's a very family dish in every region of France, and main ingredient is a caramelized onion because it gives a lot of flavor to the soup, and it's a very comforting item to have to share with friends, and the flavors are delicious with the wine and the broth and the cheese and the bread. What else can you want?
Clearly the French know a thing or two about good food, but what would a quintessential French dish like onion soup look like if Vietnam had been the one calling the culinary shots? So let's recast the colonized as the colonizer and mix up a bowl of what we're calling French Pho-Nion Soup.
This French onion soup is a take on a very classic French dish, but I'm infusing a little bit of Vietnamese flavor, pulling some spices and aromatics from pho. First thing I'm going to make is the broth. I have a couple different ingredients that are really commonly used in Vietnamese pho. I'm going to bring this up to a boil. So once it's boiling, I'm going to reduce it to low and just let it steep and simmer for about an hour. Now, while the broth is happening, time to caramelize the onions. And I'm using butter. What is French food without cooking with butter? Butter is everything. And then I'm going to add in the onion. There's a lot of onion, and it took a lot of tears to cut them. I'm using a little brown type sugar called coconut sugar, which is really common to use in like a lot of Southeast Asian cooking. It's just gonna give a little bit more of a caramely flavor versus a regular white sugar. Patience is the name of the game when making soup. These are both going at the exact same time. Read a book, watch Netflix, and in 1 hour, the soup will be ready to assemble. What this is gonna help do is make sure it's nice and thick. You wanna keep stirring until there's no more visible flour left in there. And then now, to add the booze. Now, traditional French onion soup uses wine to deglaze the pan. But because this dish is Vietnamese inspired, I'm going to be using rice wine. Deglazing just means that This is going to pick up all those little brown bits at the bottom, which carries so much flavor. No such thing as too much wine. So once the wine is evaporated so you can't see it anymore, it's time to merge these two pots together. I'm going to remove all the little aromatics I have, and it is not pleasant to chomp on a cinnamon stick by itself. Get every little bit, even those darker bits at the bottom. That's where all the flavor is. Oh my gosh, I just gave myself a soup facial. This is not good for your pores, so keep your face out of it. But you can't help but smell it because it's so aromatic. I'm gonna use a little bit of fish sauce. It is super salty and yes, a little bit fishy, but what it's gonna do is add a little umami flavor, and I wanna add it in the very end just so it doesn't get lost in there. Those bits of garlic are just so pretty in there. I'm fangirling over soup. So while the soup is staying warm, I'm going to make the crouton topping, but I'm going to give it a little Vietnamese remix. When you rub garlic, you only get a little hint of the flavor, but it really makes a difference when you break into that crouton. And now for a little bit of heat and the final addition, fromage. So I'm just going to pile them quite high. I mean, it's cheese, you can't help yourself. So I'm gonna put these under the broiler until the cheese is nice and melted, and then the soup is ready to go. Just place it right in the middle, and that bread's gonna soak up all that soup, but you can tell it's not sinking because those onions are what's holding it up. I'm really just putting on things that you can have on top of your pho. Now, if you can't find Thai basil, you can use really any variety of basil. I love how these have a beautiful purpley color to it. Really just pack it in there, make it a garden. And there you have it. French onion soup. And I present to you the French onion soup.
Wait, this is pho-me?
Oh my God. See, I use a spoon to like control where my lime juice goes.
I'm wild. I'm a wild man, people. It's all about this cheesy goodness. I love the jalapeno. It is so different tasting when you feel like you should be getting sort of regular French onion soup. We still preserve the best part, which is like the cheesy, crunchy, toasty goodness.
And once like the crouton like absorbs all that soup, it's kind of unfair how good it is, but oh well.
Yeah, maybe people in France and Vietnam should make this.
If you want to make the recipe at home, be sure to screenshot it.